Lock picking is a lot easier than most people realize, plus you're going to end up using it a lot once you learn how simple it is to do. So I've trained a lot of people in lock picking. I've had them use it for various things. Some to get into houses, their houses. I had a guy once who had one of those fancy desks where it had a key to get into the top drawer. He lost the key and he used the lock picking he learned here to pick his lock. I've had people lose file cabinet keys to be able to pick locks to file cabinets. So remember, as you're picking locks, make sure it's illegal. When it comes to lock picking, about 75% of locks found on front doors in America are quick-set locks. So go to Home Depot or Lowe's, you can buy the quick-set locks. When a new builder builds 500 homes or 1,000 homes in a subdivision, throws on the quick-set locks. So my brother, who moved to Salt Lake City not too long ago, I'm doing some training in the area, teaching one of these courses in Salt Lake. So I go to his house, and I'd never visited before. He was at work, and I quickly pick his locks. I go into his house. And I get in his house and I'm hungry and I want to eat something. And I realize there are no drawers in my brother's kitchen. This is a drawerless kitchen. So I call him up on the phone and I'm like, hey, I'm in your house. And he starts, getting all mad, like, what are you doing in my house? I said, well, you got quick-set locks on. It takes me about 2 seconds to pick. You need to put different locks on. Then I said, anyways, I'm getting ready to eat some food because I got to run and I can't find your silverware. There are no drawers in your kitchen. Do you realize you bought a house that has no drawers? And my brother, who is the world's worst handyman, says, oh yeah, the kitchen was real old, so I went to IKEA and I built a real kitchen, his version. However, after I built and designed my IKEA kitchen, I forgot to design in drawers, so I have no drawers in my kitchen. Now, my brother is obviously single. No woman in the right mind would let a guy build and design a kitchen without drawers. So his silverware is in one of those silverware caddies, but you got to open up the shelf, grab the silverware. So every time I would go by my brother's house when he wasn't there, when I was teaching an escape and evasion course there, or a pistol course or something, I'd pick the locks, go into his house, and just hang out there. Well, eventually he got tired of me picking his locks, so I told him he needed to buy either Schlage or Medeco. Those are the good quality locks. That's what you want on your front doors. Schlage or Medeco, not the quick-set locks. Again, too easy to pick. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you how easy it is to pick these locks. Most locks in this country and on your front door, the quick-set locks, they're pin tumbler locks. All that means is there are 5 pins. So just imagine, let's show this here. So just imagine this round circle and there are 5 of these in a row. And when you insert the key, which you know has grooves in it, your key has all different types of grooves, it lines up the pins at the shear line, and then you can turn it. So the key is just lining up these pins. That's it. What we do is we trick the pins into thinking that we have the key. To pick locks, what you need is an L rake and a tension wrench. An L rake just has these grooves, hence the name L rake, and a tension wrench. So that's what's in my credit card lockpick set that I carry with me, that I've got in my laptop bag too. Remember, you can get that at safehomegear.com if you want one also. So get your tension wrench, get your L rake. Now I'm going to grab a deadbolt, put it right here. So this is just a standard deadbolt, which is maybe on your front door, and if you walk around your neighborhood, the majority of people would have this deadbolt. What you're going to do is you're going to take this tension wrench. You put it at the bottom of the lock. So you put the tension wrench in at the bottom and it simply hangs out. I'll show that again. You got your tension wrench. You just go up to the deadbolt or whatever lock you're trying to pick. You put it in at the very bottom and it'll just hang down like that. Now, one of the toughest parts of learning how to pick locks is you have to put pressure on this tension wrench. Because what happens is when you put this rake in there, which we're going to do in a minute, you start scraping to bind those pins at the top. If you put just a little bit of tension, then it thinks it's a key. If you're putting too much pressure on there, then it thinks it's an intruder, a burglary, and it will not open. So as I put up here, you've got to use very little tension. You are almost putting a featherweight, let me pick that up as I just dropped in. You are almost putting a featherweight amount of tension. So you put your tension wrench in there, whatever amount you think you should be putting, dial it back by 10. If your fingers are changing color, then you've definitely putting too much tension. So I'm just resting my finger in there. Now, I have semi-long fingers, so mine goes towards the end. If you have short fingers, you can rest it here or here. It doesn't matter where you put or rest your finger on the wrench. Next, you insert the L-rake. The L-rake, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be scraping back and forth, but also putting pressure across the top. So I'm inserting it just like that inside the lock. I'm going to scrape back and forth, but while I'm scraping like this, I'm also putting upward pressure. Because this lock has 5 pins, which is a standard deadbolt lock you're going to find on your door, I'm scraping back and forth like that, trying to bind all the pins at the top, that way I can unlock the door. So this has 5 pins, as I just mentioned. Now, when you're scraping it by putting a little bit of tension, you usually bind 4 out of the 5 pins. There's 1 pin left, and that's when you need to rock back and forth to find that final pin. So here I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull it in tighter to me to make it easy. I'm not going to say anything the first time, and then I'll say something again and show you what's done. All right, so here's what I did. First, you've got to maintain that tension the same amount the entire time. So the whole time I'm picking this lock, I'm barely resting my finger. If you increase the tension as you go, it's not going to open. So I've got my finger there. I'm holding that tension the entire time. Next, I'm sticking in my L-rake. The teeth are up, always up. I'm gently scraping back and forth. So the first time I did it without sound, you could hear it. I'm very gentle. I'm not jabbing it in. I'm being very smooth. I scrape it back and forth for about 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, I know that I've scraped about 4 of those pins to the top, and I'm just missing that 5th pin. After about 10 seconds, that's when I rock back and forth to try and find that 5th pin, which I just did, and then as you can see, it unlocks and goes around. If for some reason you've been doing it for 30 seconds and you can't get it, just let your finger off, the pins will reset because you'll get frustrated. So again, I'm going to do it one more time, not saying anything. That way you can see how it's done and you can see the sound and see how I'm being smooth. So remember, a little bit of tension on the wrench. Here I go. So I get 4 of those pins, and then I've got to rock back and forth. When I'm rocking back and forth, I'm going all the way to the back and all the way to the front, rocking back and forth, trying to get that final pin. So I'll do it one more time just to show you how it's done. So featherweight, putting pressure on the tension wrench, just barely resting my finger on it. Teeth are up. I slide it in, and now I'm pushing up and back and forth at the same time. So I'm scraping gently back and forth, but also pushing up to lock those teeth. After about 10 seconds, I've got to find that final one, so I'm going to go back and forth until I find it, and then I just unlocked it. So remember, I'm rocking back and forth all the way back. That is how you pick locks. Not as hard as it looks. You can get the lock picks at safehomegear.com, but once you start doing this, you really will find out you have a ton of uses for it. Lock picking is fun. It is easy. Remember, lock picking takes finesse, so you don't want to shove the lock or shove the L-rake in there. You want to be smooth like I've been, just gliding. You basically want to glide back and forth over there, putting a little bit of pressure. Some people, when I do this live training, they pick it up in 30 seconds. Others take a little bit longer because once you start practicing it, you'll get that instinctive feel when you get all the pins. And remember, that finger, which is resting there the entire time, when you're going back and forth and you hit that final pin, it'll go down. So you don't have to push any pressure, you don't have to do anything. You'll feel it click down, that way it's unlocked. So take your time, be smooth with it, and you will learn how to pick locks and be able to pick a lot of locks. Opening a combination lock. I talked earlier that part of my vehicle gear includes bolt cutters, but also to get a combination lock off, you can freeze a lock off. So I don't know if kids these days in high school are still doing it, But when I was in high school, kids thought it was funny to take that compressed air, turn it upside down, and spray somebody's hand. So you can buy that compressed air for your computers, you can buy it at Walmart, wherever. If you turn it upside down and you spray it on the lock, you can freeze it and then take a hammer and you can smash the lock off. So funny story, a buddy of mine had a plastic shed where he had a lock on it and he lost the combination to the lock, didn't have any bolt cutters, so I told him to freeze the lock off. So he takes compressed air, which he had, upside down, sprays the whole lock, and it's frozen, takes the hammer to the lock and the shed part, because it was plastic, all shatters and it comes off. So he was able to get in his shed, but the plastic piece where you run the padlock through is no longer there because plastic is obviously more brittle than that lock, and that's what he froze off. So just be careful when you're freezing locks off or freezing something off, is you know what it's attached to. But obviously use the bolt cutters if you can. That's quicker and easier.